Sheila Gunn Reid for Rebel News, and I'm here at the G7 Summit at the Media Center in Banff, although the summit itself is being held about an hour to the east in Kananaskis. I'm joined by my Rebel News colleagues, Angelica Toy. Hi, Angelica.
Hi.
And Sid Fizzard. Hi, Sid.
Hey there.
If you'd like to see all of our reporting from on the ground here in Banff, but also Calgary and near Kananaskis, go to g7reports.com. Now, today is the last day of the 3-day summit, and it is anticlimactic, I think is the best way to describe it, because today is the day that Zelensky's here. Mark Rutte of NATO is here. They're here to discuss Russia's aggression, but the peacemaker power broker of it all isn't here. Trump left last night to deal with the escalating tensions between Iran and Israel. And I think everybody's just sort of waiting around looking for something to do.
Well, that's exactly it. And there was actually, I spoke with some members of the media that were interested in covering Ukraine topics specifically, and they were thoroughly disappointed with, President Donald Trump having departed early. Zelensky just arriving. He was supposed to be the mediator, as we were talking about that. You obviously are a good insight onto that information as well. And it's very shameful that the media here is not being treated respectfully. Obviously, there's, the CBCs, those kinds of government agencies and those who are taking government funding, they have their special access. There's a bus actually we can see just up the hill here for the pooled media. They get their special access. They get their badges from the Prime Minister's office or the delegations that are attending. And if you're not on that short list, well, you're out of luck. And that's what a lot of the media back here, you see them kind of just lingering around because they actually don't have anything to do. We spoke with a Turkish photographer who, flights he had to pay for, the travel, renting a car, staying in a hotel, getting food, although they have some luxurious food here, the circus and the bread for the media. But all of these expenses are adding up, and the value that he is able to extract as a small-time reporter is nothing because he's not able to access it. He asked about the camera, the photography that he would hope to do in Kananaskis, and they said, well, just look at the TV screens for the live feed. Maybe you can take pictures of that. It's extremely disingenuous, and it's totally tilted towards those outlets who are pretty much just government propaganda.
Yeah, the BBC, CBC, of course, Reuters, and some of the big American companies, but nobody asking questions that normal people want answers to. And although Trump left before the big meeting between him, Zelensky, Mark Carney, and the rest of the G7, it's sad because I was expecting a little bit of entertainment. Last time Zelensky and Trump met, there were, I don't know how I would describe it, fireworks, but never to fear because Mark Carney dished out $2 billion in taxpayer money to Zelensky and gave over another $2 billion in frozen Russian assets that had been frozen by the Canadian government when Justin Trudeau was in charge. So I guess Zelensky still got what he came for, and Canadians are dishing out this money without having a budget at all. From Mark Carney now.
Canada is announcing today several measures, sanctions, first and foremost, against a number of individuals in Russia, against over 40 entities in Russia and beyond that are trying to contribute to the evasion of sanctions, the sanctioning of over 200 vessels in the shadow fleet that Russia is using, again, to try to evade these sanctions. That's the first thing. The second is we are providing additional military assistance, drones, helicopters, broader munitions, over $2 billion worth of assistance directly to Ukraine. And thirdly, we are dispersing the next tranche of the loan based on the frozen Russian assets, over $2 billion as well. This is our contribution. We'll be working with our European and other allies for their contributions to provide the support. And to be absolutely clear, the support will be unwavering until we get a just peace for Ukraine and Ukrainian people.
Angelica, even though we were not able to get close to the power brokers here, you were still able to do, I think, some quality journalism. Tell us about it.
That's right. Sid and I hit the streets here of Banff and we spoke to the locals how the G7 summit has affected them personally. I specifically spoke to them about how they removed the buffalo berries from the sites of Banff before they even came into season to deter bears from the area and protect the delegates. And a lot of the locals and even tourists were not very happy about that because, of course, it affects the ecosystem. We also spoke about how they cut down trees to put up the fence around the Kananaskis village, again, disturbing the ecosystem. And we're actually planning on coming back here to see if they've planted trees to, of course, make up for their footprint here. And this was actually very surprising to us. They took down the sign that says Banff, which makes no sense because the main G7 delegates aren't even in the town of Banff. They're many minutes away from Banff in Kananaskis. So again, the locals were very confused about that. So we'll actually show you some footage of that right here. Do you feel any hypocrisy from the G7 delegates coming here to an ecological haven, of course coming in on their private jets, removing trees to put fences around, and then of course also removing the native berries from the bears? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously living in the national park, we want to have bears and wildlife as our primary concern. I feel like we have a duty to respect the wildlife. Not totally sure about why they would need to remove food, like the bear's primary food source. Buffalo berries, I mean, yeah, they come into season a little bit later, so maybe they're not quite ripe, but it doesn't really make sense to me personally.
Things like bears aren't a huge threat to normal day people, and I don't think they'd be a very big threat to anybody else in the area.
Yeah, not great. I think if the holding of the summit is going to mean damage to local ecosystems and, you know, stuff that's in place already, then it shouldn't be held there.
You know, it feels a little bit like the World Economic Forum in Davos, where they take over a tiny Swiss resort community and just turn it into something completely different for a week. And that has a little bit of that feel here, although all the media are sort of penned up here. They're not even mixing and mingling with the normal folks in Banff. It's weird.
Actually, we also went to the protest site in Banff yesterday, and majority of the folks on the ground there were the media, which was really funny. But yeah, we're headed back there again today to capture some more footage. And to note, the protest site here at Banff is completely secluded. They're in a parking lot fully surrounded by trees, so the people passing by can't even see them. And then allegedly they're supposed to be streaming to the protest sites in Calgary, but we have yet to see those streams, especially being in the media room. You would think that they would stream that there, but they have not. So of course we don't know if they're streaming it to the delegates, but I honestly doubt it.
Can I just add something to that? And I think it's really important for viewers to note, and we've noted this already in our reporting, but the media center is here in Banff. In 2002, it used to be in Calgary, right by the protesters. This year, everyone is separated from each other. So you have the main global leaders in Kananaskis, with only the special VIP media can attend. All the other media of the 1,400 that are attending, most of them are stuck here in Banff, an hour away from Kananaskis, an hour and a half away from Calgary. The protesters that are in Calgary, well, they're not going to be transiting out here. The media here are often stuck here because if they leave, then they risk missing something that's going to happen here, and they're not even allowed to go to Kananaskis. So they've separated the world leaders, the media, and the protesters, and it's actually quite affected a lot of the reporting people want to do, because it's a lot of transit, and that cuts into the reporting.
Exactly. Today, we got an email from them saying that there was open access to the meeting with Japan, and of course there was a 30-minute window for all the pooled media to go from here to there, which clearly does not give them enough time to cover that.
Yeah, it's been like that all week, where they will send out their media availability with 45 minutes to spare, telling journalists to get somewhere that is over an hour away. Mm-hmm. And then they change it right at the gate, as they did with me when I was going to Kananaskis, because initially they said that the media availability between Trump and Carney would be open to everybody. And then with 20 minutes to spare, while I was at the gate, they sent an email completely changing that. But also, the meeting between Trump and Carney has really been the story of the G7, because as I said in my report, at some point, I thought that Carney would perhaps curtsy to Trump. You know, he ran a campaign on elbows up and the complete dissolution of our trading relationship, our military relationship with the Americans. That was what Carney campaigned on.
We will need to ensure that Canada can succeed in a drastically different world. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
And we have seen just a complete rollover on that. And look, I don't want Carney to fight with Trump. I think we should have a good relationship with our American friends. It's the single largest trading partnership I think that's ever existed in human civilization, and Carney was ready to throw it in the garbage for Canada First during the campaign. And now, if you were a Liberal voter, you should feel real duped right now. It's really bizarre.
Welcome to Canada. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Happy birthday. A few days short.
A little bit.
A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day. Happy birthday to the U.S. military as well, 250th, and this is the 50th birthday, if you will, of the G7. This marks the 50th birthday of the G7, and the G7 is nothing without U.S. leadership, and your personal leadership of the United States, many issues. Geopolitics, economic, technology, and working hand in hand with the United States, Canada and the United States, and the other G7 partners with your leadership. Very much looking forward to the meeting. I'm grateful to have you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it, and we've developed a very good relationship, and we're going to be talking about trade and many other things.
Oh, it is so bizarre. And if you watch, it's even extended to the G7 in such a way where Prime Minister Mark Carney greeted him in Kananaskis. They had an opening presser, and obviously he was just on his knees, kissing Trump's feet, basically. But then, like you said, at the same time, during his campaign, it was our relationship is over, this and that. But specifically here at the G7, Carney said how important it was for President Trump to be here. He is truly the leader of the G7. That was in the morning. And then in the night, Trump was like, I'm out of here. I got more important things to do. Yeah. So it really just like smacked around Carney's, the appearance that Carney wanted to put on with President Trump. And it showed that Carney's just doing a lot of lip service.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, Melanie Joly is at an air show in Paris saying we need to get closer to the Europeans. It's just an absolute schizophrenic foreign policy.
Hi everyone, bonjour tout le monde. It's a pleasure for me to have the chance to talk to you directly from the Paris Air Show, which we call the Bourget, of course directly from Paris. And we know we're living in much more uncertain times in a dangerous world. We know that also when it comes to our own reality on the trade side and on the security side, we've been over-reliant on the US. And so therefore, we want to become closer to Europe, closer to our European partners and some key Asian partners as well. And so we are the most European of all non-European countries. That's why it was important to be here at the Paris Air Show, which is the most important forum for the aerospace sector at a time where there's so many decisions and investment made in the sector.
Angelica, final words to you. We're not alone here as independent media. Our friends from the Western Standard are upstairs from us working hard, but I think this is your first big summit. What do you think?
Yes, it is. It has been quite an experience. And again, we want to thank all of you who donated and helped us at letussupport.com. It means so much because you helped us get here. And of course, this has been a wonderful experience. And I want to give a big thank you to you and Ezra, of course, for getting us here.
Yeah, it was a battle, last minute battle. Global affairs blinked. And at the end of the day, we don't want special treatment. Mm-hmm. We just want to be treated like everybody else. And as it seems, we're being treated like about 1,400 other journalists, is in that we don't have the same access to the politicians that the pooled and hand-selected media do. But I think we still did some great journalism from on the ground. I mean, when I go to the climate change conferences, they never let me in. And I find a week's worth of work to do. Sid, what do you think about this summit?
Yeah, well, I think, exactly to your point, we had to fight just to be here. We got our accreditation badges, and then, of course, we need the special one from the Prime Minister. But simply being here at the media center, you really see, and I mentioned it earlier in this conversation, the bread and circus, right? Like they have a nice media lounge, there's a prayer room, but you go in to get your food for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Obviously, it's all free. It's really 5-star meals that they're providing you just to keep you busy. It's just a show, really, for the media, and I find it very fascinating in that way.
Yeah, I did a lot of work by the prayer room because I knew that these godless weirdos weren't going to be over there. Usually it's real quiet over there. And we're not done working yet. For example, I've had to do a few hits while I was here with American media who are interested in our unique, independent Canadian take, our unfiltered Canadian take from the summit. You guys are headed back to Calgary right now because you need to check out some protests still.
That's right. We're going straight to the protest site. We're going to speak to the protesters there and ask them how they feel about their visibility, of course, being all the way back in Calgary. And do we really know if they're being streamed here or not? We're going to find out.
We have not seen it, let me tell you. We sat staring at those screens in the media room and we saw nothing. I think that's it. That's a wrap for us here in Banff, but we're not done covering the G7 summit for you at Rebel News. To see all of our coverage from Banff, somewhere near Kananaskis at some point, and Calgary from the protest sites and at the airport, please go to g7reports.com. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. That's Angelica Toy. That's Sid Fizzard here in Banff at the Media Center. To see and support all of our independent journalism from here on the ground at the G7 Summit spread across 3 locations, Kananaskis, Banff, and Calgary, please go to g7reports.com.